Hello students and welcome to Home Learning Biology. My name is Mr. Cindzi, Mr. C. In today's lesson we are looking at the digestive system. We shall cover a number of slides, a number of graphics on the digestive systems and also the food macromolecules. As we know that digestion is the breaking down of large, complex, insoluble food molecules into small, fine, simple, soluble food molecules which are ready to be absorbed somewhere along the alimentary canal. Just a quick overview. Let's look at the anatomy of a structure, rather the digestive tract as seen here. The digestive system starts from the mouth, goes down the esophagus, stomach, small intestines, large intestines, and the exit point, the anal point, just after the rectum. That is a digestive system. The digestive system is not a standalone system out there. There are organs, very important organs, which play a role in its function. For instance, the pancreas. The pancreas is strategically located along this system here, and its role is to produce some fluids containing enzymes which help in the digestion process. Likewise, the liver also produces enzymes that act in breaking down the food, working on the food, so that digestion may be facilitated. We shall look at this in more detail as we go on. As said earlier, the food macromolecules. By macromolecule, we're talking about a large molecule, which when eaten will be broken down either by the teeth, which is part of physical digestion, or chemicals called enzymes along the tract. So these food molecules are broken down to very small soluble molecules which are then easily absorbed. Starch is a carbohydrate. It's an example of a carbohydrate food. We shall look at the structures of representing carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So this one here, starch, is a carbohydrate. As can be seen, it's made up of a linkage of glucose units. A glucose molecule is denoted with a ring in this fashion here. That's a representation of a glucose. Otherwise, the structure, if you show all the atoms and the bonds, is represented, is drawn in this fashion here. So that is a glucose molecule. So 3, 4, 5, 6, and so many glucose molecules linked together, they produce starch, as can be seen here. So when you take the food, and one takes food, eats the food, using the teeth to break the large food molecules, of which starch is composite, then this starch should be broken down to very small chained molecules, which will eventually become glucose as this digestion process continues along the alimentary canal. It should be noted that starch is broken down to maltose, then maltose is broken down to glucose eventually. So it's a whole string of events that occur along the alimentary canal. What is important for you to know, students out there, is that what is the product that is obtainable when the starch is broken down in the mouth? What's the product in the duodenum? And in the ileum, where absorption eventually takes place, in what state is that starch? So from this lesson, one should capture that. Protein, another macromolecule, which is composed of a lot of amino acids chemically bonded together. That means a number of amino acids joined together form a protein molecule. Or you can say that when a protein molecule is broken down, you get the amino acids. So this whole chain of rings here is represents the structure of a protein, as can be seen here. Each circle is an amino acid. We can label this one as amino acid 1, the next one 2, 3, 4, etc. So these amino acids join together, they make the protein. So at the point of absorption in the ileum by the villus, whose structure we'll look at in more details, these amino acids is the amino acid that is actually absorbed there, not the protein, because proteins are very large and the villi have got very small like pores through which the amino acids can be absorbed into. And also once absorbed, then it has to go to the blood vessels and all the way up. So it's not practical for the protein, large as is, to be absorbed there. So the protein molecule has to be broken down first physically in the mouth, which is physical digestion, and then at some regions along the alimentary canal where chemical digestion occurs to further break down the remains of the proteins and polypeptides into the amino acids that will be easily absorbed and thereafter used in the body. As can be seen here, a protein, an amino acid, may be represented in this fashion here, as shown in the circle. That is an amino acid. A typical unique identification of an amino acid is the presence of an R, is the presence of an R group, NH group, NH. If you have a structure, say a glucose structure, with an N group at one corner, then you must know that we're talking about a protein. If that glucose structure does not have the N group, then it's merely glucose. So proteins are identified with a nitrogen group or a sulfur group. That means protein. That is why you hear we have the NH, which represents a protein, and it's called an amino group, as can be seen there. The NH2 is the amino. That's the amino group. So amino acids are identified with the amino group, which makes them different from all the other food groups out there. Fats. A fat molecule looks like the drawing here. It's composed of two items. One is glycerol, the other is fatty acid. Together, the fatty acid and the glycerol combined form the fat structure. On this part here, that is the fatty acid. This side, that's the glycerol. That is why, therefore, when a fat molecule is broken down, the products are fatty acids and glycerol. Fat as is, fat molecule as is, macromolecule as is, cannot be absorbed in the ileum because these are very large molecules. For it to be eventually absorbed there, the fat has to be broken down by the appropriate enzyme, which we shall talk about, into fatty acids and glycerol. Thereafter, they'll be absorbed. So it's very important for you as a student out there to know the structure and be able to draw a structure of fat. It may not be exactly like this, but as you can draw the lines, these lines, the carbon-oxygen double bonds and the CH2 on the left, differentiating it from the structure of a protein, the structure of a glucose or starch, then that is the important part for you as a learner at this level. That's Form 5 level. Now, having looked at the different food molecules which will then be absorbed after having been broken down, after having undergone mechanical digestion and chemical digestion, now we look at the types of digestion. We said that digestion starts in the mouth and goes all the way. Mouth, esophagus, which is the gullet, the stomach, small intestines, large intestines, rectum, and all the way out. The anal point. The anal point is the exit point, whereas the mouth is the entry point. Talk about the exit point and the entry point. That brings two terms which are relevant to what we're talking about. One is ingestion, and the other is egestion. Ingestion is the taking in of food through the mouth. The taking in of food through the mouth, as if the food is prepared for digestion. Then egestion is the removal of what has not been absorbed through the anal point or through the anus. That is egestion. So the digestion process consists of a number of processes, of which ingestion and egestion are part of them. So it's very important to differentiate between these processes and also mention where they occur. The liver, as we said, has a role in the digestion process. So you can see that it's strategically placed just next to the intestines and also in neighborhood of the pancreas by the duodenum. So the liver has a special role which we shall look at as we go down this lesson. Mechanical digestion. There are two types of digestion. The first one is mechanical, which is also called physical digestion. And the second one is chemical digestion. Chemical from chemistry, from fluids. Fluids are associated with chemical digestion. Fluids which contain enzymes which are substances that assist in the breaking down of these food molecules to very fine, soluble, and easily absorbable molecules. Physical digestion, that is mechanical. This one occurs in the mouth by the action of the teeth. In the mouth you find the teeth. Man has 32 teeth. So these teeth are responsible for physically breaking down the food into very small food molecules. The teeth, together with the tongue, mold the food, making it into a bolus. Chemical digestion, as we'll see, does occur in the mouth as well, because the mouth has glands along the sides of the mouth. There are glands which we call salivary glands. From these glands you find saliva. Inside the saliva there are enzymes including salivary amylase. So salivary amylase is an enzyme found in the mouth which contains salivary amylase is the enzyme which digests starch or carbohydrate food. So it can be concluded that in the mouth both types of digestion occur. Mechanical digestion by the action of the teeth, breaking down the large molecules of food into very fine food molecules, and thereafter the saliva will act on that food through the salivary amylase, further breaking down what has already been broken down by the physically by the teeth. That part is now chemical digestion. So yes, physical digestion does occur in the mouth, chemical digestion occurs in the mouth. For some animals like birds which do not have which do not have teeth visible, then the beak acts as the physical agent of breaking down the food item, like the maize grain, like whatever food item that is hard, the beak will break that up. Then as you go in there, chemical digestion will take over, because in the mouth has salivary glands producing the saliva, so chemical digestion will take over. Let's see from the notes what is being said about that. So with physical digestion, there's a breakdown of large insoluble food molecules into small soluble food molecules. Large insoluble food into smaller soluble particles. Smaller. They're smaller. The food, there is preparation of the food for chemical digestion. So yes, physical digestion is a prerequisite for chemical digestion. The chemicals, the enzymes, cannot act on the large complex food molecules. That has been broken down by the teeth so that the surface area is increased. Talking about the surface area, the teeth will break down the food, creating a large surface area so that when the enzymes land on this food, they find their environment conducive and the surface area just great enough for them to act. So the teeth act their increasing surface area in the process. Action of teeth in the mouth. Yes, as we have said that, as that has been said, the teeth are found in the mouth and are responsible for the physical manipulation, physical breaking down of the food molecules. And the different types of teeth, the incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. That's normally for man, for human being. Man has these 4 types of teeth. The incisors, which are found at the front, the canines on the sides, and they are sharp, chisel-like shaped. Then the premolars, the molars on the far end. And each type of tooth here has a very unique role. So it's very important for you students out there to know the specific role of each type of tooth in the digestion process. Talking about the different types of teeth in the human mouth, we can see from this diagram here, from this graphic, the different teeth outlined right from the front to the back. At the front, the teeth there are called the incisors. Then the canines, which are sharp, chisel shaped. The premolars, as you move towards the back, or rather inside the mouth. And then the molars. So these are the 4 types of teeth found in the human body, human mouth. Some animals do not have all these teeth. For instance, a lion has well-developed canines because a lion is a carnivorous animal, so feeding on flesh, on meat, so it should have should have very sharp canines for capturing prey. Crocodiles also have canines, and a lot of them, they don't have some of these teeth we're talking about here. So it's very important to know when referring to a specific kind of animal, to know the type of teeth that animal has. That is an element of adaptation. Adaptation, which we talked about earlier, and we said it's the way an organism is best suited for a particular function. So talking about adaptation when it comes to feeding, so we do not expect a cow to have canines because a cow does not feed on flesh. It feeds on grass, leafy vegetation, plant material. So that's an adaptation for the feeding of that herbivorous animal. So it's very important to know the kind of teeth an organism has. This being a sample from a human mouth, let us count and see how many there are. Taking this as the lower jaw, let's say this is the lower jaw from the human mouth. The molars, there are 3 molars here. There are 2 molars, 1 canine, 2 incisors. Then this is the right half of the lower jaw. If you split it here, then we have exactly the same kind of teeth on the other side as arranged. So the lower jaw therefore will have 3 plus 2, that's 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is 8 plus 8. That's the left side and the right side of the lower jaw, which is 16. Then plus 16 from the upper jaw. That makes 32 teeth. Thus, an adult human being has 32 teeth. This is called the permanent teeth. For children, it's the milk set, but for adults, we refer to that as permanent teeth. So a human being has 32 teeth, which includes the molars, premolars, canines, and incisors. It's very important, therefore, to know how many molars an adult human being has, how many canines, how many premolars, how many incisors. Shown here is the position of the teeth in the mouth, including the lower jaw and the upper jaw, as sketched earlier. So thus the baby primary teeth, or the milk set, it's called the milk set for babies or for young children, and the permanent teeth for adult. The milk set, upper jaw and lower jaw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It may not be 10. That depends on the age of the person you are studying here. So we're not saying that babies should have 10 teeth on the lower jaw, 10 on the upper jaw. It depends on the age as well. But for the permanent, for the adults, as can be seen here, we say that there are 32 teeth in total. So that's the upper jaw. They can be counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's 16. And 16 on the other side, which makes 32. 32 teeth. 32 teeth. This covers the incisors, as can be seen here. These 4 here are the incisors. Then the canines, premolars, and the molars. So once again, it's very important to know where these different types of teeth are located in the mouth. Students, let us now look at the structure of the tooth in more detail. This is a representation of the tooth. It represents the molars, premolars, incisors, canines. So if you decide to use here a premolar, but the labels here are the same as when you consider an incisor or a canine. All the features here are found in the other teeth as well. At the top is the enamel. The enamel is the outer covering of the tooth, and it's very hard, for it protects all there is inside. For this, by inside I'm referring to the dentine and the pulp, the blood capillaries. So all that is protected by the enamel. That's why it is very hard. The way it's made is such that it protects all that is inside. Considering the food that one may eat, at times you may eat very hard food items which may injure the teeth if the enamel was not hard enough. One's diet may include alkaline substances, acidic substances, which may wear away the teeth. So the enamel has to be hard enough to resist all that is exposed to during the eating process. So the enamel is on the outside, and it covers right all the way and gets into the gum on either ends around that tooth, as can be seen here. The dentine is below the enamel, as can be seen here. That's the dentine. Then the pulp cavity. The pulp houses the blood vessels and the nerves, as can be seen. The blood vessels and the nerves are found in the pulp. These are the blood vessels and the nerves. Talking about the blood vessels and the nerves, the tooth grows. Teeth grow. That is why initially, right after birth, after birth you don't have teeth. Teeth grow over time. Then the first set of teeth, which is the milk set, appears. Then these teeth are very small and they grow with time. Talking about growth. Growth is a function of nutrients. There has to be nutrients for any organism, for any cell to grow. For cells to grow, there must be food. So there is a constant supply of nutrients, of nutrition to the teeth. The blood vessels, as we remember, the functions of blood is to transport waste, transport oxygen, transport food as well. So the blood vessels going to the tooth, leading to the teeth, carry nutrients, oxygen, for respiration to take place inside the tooth, for feeding, for supply of nutrients, for respiration. The nutrients and oxygen, there'll be respiration there, and then energy, then cell division. So all these nutrients are carried by the blood vessels. So that's the role of the blood vessels in the tooth, supplying the nutrients and taking out waste as well, any form of waste to the appropriate excretory system, excretory organs of the body. The nerves in the tooth. You feel the pain if you bite a very hard object, or if anything happens in your mouth. You feel the tooth aching. The reason for that is the nerves, which are embedded deep in the pulp, It's the nerves. We know that the nerves from the nervous system, they'll carry such messages to the brain, spinal cord, and then message up, message back, and all that, which we shall talk about later. So the messages and the responses are a function of the nerves, which are the carrier path for anything that may be happening in there that may cause the pain. So that's the role of the nerves, that's the role of the blood vessels. Then the root canal, as can be seen here, the root canal, the bone which secures the tooth, keeps the tooth in position. If the bone was not there, the tooth was just embedded in the flesh, then the tooth will be loose. So our teeth are in place. We bite any food item, even hard objects, hard food materials, the teeth are not shaken up because they are secured inside the bones, So it's very important for you to know the roles of these different parts of food. Still on this tooth, still on the structure, anatomy of the tooth. Wearing, let's talk about the wearing away, the rotting, dental caries, the rotting away of teeth. What causes that? Physical damage of the tooth could be caused by eating very hard objects, biting things that are not edible, like metallic items, whatever reason, metal like a nail, for whatever reason, then that will cause harm, physical damage on the enamel, cracking of the enamel over time. That may create a route for infections, bacteria, harmful organisms to get inside the tooth and lead down to the pulp where they'll cause infection, and then we start feeling the pain. So it's very important that one does not bite hard objects, only eat edible things. For the enamel once damaged, then a route may be created for disease-causing organisms to get in and then cause disease right inside the tooth. Some foods, as we said earlier, are acidic, some are alkaline. Food needs to be removed from the teeth crevices. That is brushing. After every meal, it's important to rinse your mouth, to brush your teeth, to floss your teeth, so that any food remains are removed. If food remains are not removed around the enamel, around the teeth, then they'll serve as food for bacteria as well. When the bacteria feed on the food remains in the mouth, the bacteria will produce acids as byproducts. Respiration. They'll respire, aerobic respiration. They'll produce acids which will wear away the teeth. over time. As the teeth wear away, then the enamel, in essence, is corroded. Then there'll be that entrance of bacteria deep into the nerves, right into the tooth structures, where they cause more infection. So it's very important that the food is removed immediately after eating by rinsing, flossing, brushing, and the appropriate of brushing your teeth is to brush it up and down directions, sideways, up and down, because food trapped between the teeth, when you move your toothbrush up and down, those food particles trapped in there are removed, so you'll be safe thereafter. And then you floss to remove any trace of food elements which could be hidden in there, rinsing. So that's the appropriate way of cleaning your teeth. So that is dental caries as related to the structure and anatomy of the teeth. So up to this point, students, we've been looking at mechanical digestion and physical digestion, where we say the teeth play a very vital role there in physically breaking down the food molecules into small particles in preparation for chemical digestion. And we said physical digestion occurs in the mouth. Likewise, chemical digestion does occur there because the mouth harbors salivary glands on the sides of the mouth, the inside walls of the mouth, salivary glands, which contain the fluid saliva, which is responsible for making the food into a paste together with the tongue, saliva which contains salivary amylase for the digestion of carbohydrate food. So now we're moving to chemical digestion in more details. Chemical digestion in the mouth, chemical digestion in the stomach, chemical digestion in the duodenum, absorption in the ileum. So we shall be looking at all that. This is an anatomy of part of the digestive system, specifically the stomach, the position of the stomach. As can be seen here, this is the esophagus or the gullet, as extracted from the previous outline from our introductory diagram. The stomach is here, the duodenum, the pancreas. These are the organs that play a very important role in the digestion process, digestive system. The duodenum, let's label it 1, the pancreas 2. They are organs not really along the alimentary canal, but in neighborhood of it. And they have very critical roles to play to ensure that the end product of digestion is attained. Food comes all the way from the mouth, as per the arrow here, from the mouth. Esophagus, it goes to the stomach. Does the food go into the stomach? Food is a composite of all the food, different types of food items we talked about. The carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats. In the mouth, only carbohydrates are broken down and digested. Carbohydrate is broken down to maltose or to glucose, depending on the enzymes available there. Only carbohydrates are digested in the mouth. When we get to the stomach, only proteins are digested in the stomach. Proteins are digested in the stomach by the enzyme pepsin. So there is enzyme pepsin in the stomach. I'll write P here for pepsin. Pepsin enzyme is found in the stomach. And the stomach environment is acidic, whereas the mouth environment is more alkaline. The implication, therefore, is the salivary amylase coming from the mouth as you swallow will be rendered inactive in the stomach, because the environmental condition in terms of pH is no longer suitable for salivary amylase. Only pepsin will survive because of the acidic condition. There is hydrochloric acid produced here. In the stomach, there are juices aligning found along the inner linings of the stomach. Gastric juice. So gastric juice is found here in the stomach. The gastric juice is that which produces the hydrochloric acid, making the stomach environment acidic and conducive for the function of the enzyme pepsin. Enzyme pepsin, which digests proteins to polypeptides. Pepsin digests proteins to polypeptides in the stomach. So that is stomach. So once the polypeptides are there, having produced, they flow down together with the glucose coming from the top, or the maltose coming from the top, which was the maltose which was relayed from the mouth. Everything goes down towards the duodenum. In the duodenum, further digestion occurs. Now in the duodenum, all the food items there, the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats are digested. Or to put it differently, the polypeptides, which are from proteins, the maltose, which is from carbohydrates, is further digested in the duodenum. So the duodenum is where all the enzymes are active. The mouth, salivary amylase is active. Only salivary amylase is active in the mouth. Stomach, only enzyme pepsin is active in the stomach. Duodenum, all enzymes are active. So the environmental condition in terms of pH now is not acidic. It's suitable for all the enzymes to work. So it's no longer acidic, it's no longer strongly alkaline, so it's suitable for all of them to work. Now, the roles of the pancreas, as we said. Number 2, the pancreas and the liver. The liver, which is not located here. Let's say the liver is somewhere here. Let's call this one the liver. We saw the position of the liver from the first outline, from the first digestive anatomy. The liver is somewhere there from our sketch. The liver produces bile. This is very important. The liver produces bile, which is a greenish, yellowish fluid. And this bile flows down the bile duct. This is the bile duct here. Bile duct from the liver. So it goes like that. So it's bile duct from the liver going like that. The liver produces bile, and the bile is carried by the bile duct, and the bile is stored in the gallbladder. There's a gallbladder somewhere there. The gallbladder. When the gallbladder releases the bile will go to the duodenum, where it will emulsify fats. So bile is associated with fats. Bile is associated with fat. It's not digesting the fat. It emulsifies the fats. To emulsify means to increase the surface area. The bile will simply increase the surface area of the fat in preparation for the enzyme which will digest the fats. The enzyme responsible for digesting fat is called lipase. So bile prepares the ground for enzyme lipase to act on. Then once the fats are broken down from our introduction statement, we said that fats are composed of glycerol and fatty acids. So yes, once the bile has increased the surface area of the fat, then lipase will digest the fat into fatty acid and glycerol. which is the end product of fat digestion, which we'll look at more details later on. So here from this we can see the role of the pancreas, the role of the liver. We've just mentioned the role of the liver, that the liver produces bile, which is carried by the bile duct, and then it's stored in the gallbladder, released from the gallbladder to the duodenum, where it emulsifies fats, increasing the fat surface area for enzyme lipase to act on. That's the role of the liver. Then the pancreas, which we denoted number 2 here. The pancreas produces pancreatic juice. Pancreas, pancreatic juice. Pancreas, pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice contains all the enzymes. We said in the duodenum there is digestion of all the food items now. Remember we said in the mouth digestion of carbohydrates, in the stomach digestion of proteins, in the duodenum digestion of everything. The carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats, everything is digested there. So pancreas produces pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice contains all the enzymes for the digestion of all the different kinds of foods. For instance, pancreatic juice will contain the enzyme lipase for the digestion of fats. Pancreatic juice will contain the enzyme protease for the digestion of proteins, digestion of all the protein peptides coming from the stomach. Then the protease will digest that. Pancreatic juice contains the enzyme, the third type of enzyme, which is amylase, for the digestion of carbohydrate food. The carbohydrate, the maltose coming from the mouth, will be digested here by amylase to simple molecules, which will eventually be absorbed. So the pancreatic juice is very, very important, which makes the pancreas to be a very, very important organ in the body in terms of digestion as well. Not to say the other organs are not, but the pancreas has all the enzymes which are necessary. In addition to that, the pancreas produces hormones, hormone insulin, which is not relevant to what I'm talking about now here. We'll discuss the hormones when we do the endocrine systems, but this hormone insulin is also produced by the pancreas. The pancreas, in addition to producing the enzymes we're talking about, the 3 types of enzymes, the amylases, the lipases, the proteases, as produced by the pancreas. In addition to that, the pancreas produces sodium hydrogen carbonate. The pancreas produces sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is alkaline. Sodium hydrogen carbonate is alkaline in pH. This will neutralize the acid coming from the stomach. Remember, from the stomach you lead to the duodenum along the alimentary canal. As said here, as shown here, this is the stomach, and you move to the duodenum. So all contents from the stomach, most of the contents of the stomach will lead to the duodenum normally, with all the acids, the hydrochloric acids produced by the inner linings of the stomach. So if those acids land in the duodenum, they will cooled, otherwise make that environment acidic, and that's not conducive for the activity of all the other enzymes. Thus, the pancreas produces the sodium hydrogen carbonate and leads it to the duodenum, which will neutralize the acids, the HCl, the hydrochloric acid coming from the stomach, thus creating an environment conducive for all enzymes to occur. So that's the role of the pancreas. So it is important to know the role of the pancreas and the role of the lungs with regards to the digestion of food. Having said all that, let's look at the digestion process in the stomach in notes format. So this is a stomach, digestion in the stomach. We said that the inner linings of the stomach secrete digestive fluid, which is a gastric juice. There's a gastric juice which is produced in the stomach. The gastric juice which contains the hydrochloric acid, or rather gastric juice which produces the enzyme pepsin. Gastric juice contains hydrochloric acid and the enzyme pepsin. So gastric juice produces two. It contains the hydrochloric acid and the gastric and the enzyme pepsin. That is the gastric juice. Thick layer of mucus protects the cells lining the stomach from the acid digestive enzymes. That answers the question. If the internal linings of the stomach produce hydrochloric acid, and hydrochloric acid is known to be corrosive, why can't there be corrosion? Why can't the organs, the linings there be corroded? So the answer is there is a mucus layer along the inside walls of the stomach which protects the cells from being corroded, from being worn out by the acids. So that's the mucus which does the protection there. The hydrochloric acid kills bacteria in the food. As you do the eating, as you eat the food, the food may not be sterilized enough, so it may be having bacteria swallowed into the stomach. Then the HCl, the hydrochloric acid, will kill the bacteria. In addition to making the pH condition of the stomach, conducive for the function of enzyme pepsin, that is the acidic condition. So HCl will do two things here: kill the bacteria coming with the food. Two, creating a conducive environment for the function of enzyme pepsin. So those two roles need to be known, the roles of HCl in the stomach. Pepsin breaks down proteins into polypeptides at the convenient low pH. So the pepsin, the protein molecule, the macromolecule, food molecule protein we talked about earlier, is broken down by pepsin to polypeptides. These polypeptides are further broken down to peptides in the duodenum. So in the duodenum, the protease will break down the polypeptides into peptides and amino acids. The final end product, as we'll see, is the amino acid, AA, amino acid, from the protein perspective. Digestion in the duodenum. The duodenum is actually the first part of the small intestines. The duodenum is the first part of the small intestines. The ileum is the second part of the small intestine. So the duodenum, digestion in the duodenum. The liver and the pancreas produce juices poured in the duodenum. We mentioned the role of the liver. We mentioned the role of the pancreas in terms of liver producing bile, pancreas producing pancreatic juice. Bile, here is the definition of bile and the color of the bile. Bile is a watery greenish liquid produced by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, carried through the bile duct to the duodenum. That line is very important. We should know that line. That bile is produced by the liver, carried by the bile duct, stored in the gallbladder, and act in the duodenum. What do you mean by act? What does it act on? It emulsifies fats. In other words, increases the surface area of fats, creating a room for enzyme lipase to act on the fats, digesting the fats to fatty acids and glycerol. Bile contains bile salts, which emulsify the fats, as we have said. Here is the key word: emulsify the salts, which emulsify the fats, making it easier for digest and that. Which emulsify the fats, making it easier to digest and absorb. Bile emulsify the fats, making it easier for the digestion process to proceed. The pancreas produces pancreatic juice, as we said earlier, flowing along the pancreatic duct into the small intestines. Which is the duodenum. Duodenum, as you said, is the first part of the small intestines. Duodenum. That's the first part where the digestion will occur. Pancreatic juice contains sodium hydrogen carbonate, as we said earlier. Sodium hydrogen carbonate, which is alkaline in pH. Therefore, it will neutralize the acidic status coming from the stomach. So this sodium hydrogen carbonate has that role. It also has other enzymes as well. That is the pancreatic juice. The pancreas. We said the pancreas also produces hormones. There's so much that is done by the organ pancreas. Sodium hydrogen carbonate partly neutralizes acidic food from the stomach. That has been said already. And enzymes from the pancreatic juice need less acidic conditions. As you said earlier, that the pancreatic juice contains all the enzymes and they don't need the acidic status coming from the stomach. That condition has to be neutralized thanks to sodium hydrogen carbonate, which does that to enable all these enzymes from the pancreas to work properly. Acids will otherwise harm the walls of the intestines. That's another critical point. We said in the stomach there is a mucus which protects the walls, the internal linings of the stomach from being harmed by the acids. Now, in the duodenum, that facility is not available. We don't hear of that facility. But then, therefore, the sodium hydrogen carbonate will neutralize the acid so that the environment is just good enough. There won't be acids to harm the inside linings of the intestines, the inside linings of the duodenum. Whereas in the stomach, there is mucus there. So it's very important to know why we have a mucus in the stomach, why we do not have the same mucus at such quantities in the duodenum. Yet digestion proceeds or is expected to proceed, and it does proceed normally. Digestion and products. By digestion and products, we mean after having seen digestion, once the digestion process has occurred, once the large food molecules, macromolecules, have been broken down, what do we obtain at the end, which will then be easily absorbed? That is what I mean by digestion and products. Enzymes in the pancreatic juice. We listed these enzymes in the pancreatic juice, and we said these enzymes are lipases, amylases, proteases. So the type of enzyme, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, that's the type. The protease, that's the type. Protease from proteins. Carbohydrates, that's a general name of the enzyme, carbohydrate. If you say carbohydrates, we are generalizing. It's not the name of the enzyme, it's general. It's a carbohydrates, it means it's an enzyme that digests carbohydrates. It's a protease, it's an enzyme that digests proteins. Then the lipase for fats. Now coming to the specifics, the carbohydrates enzymes produced in the pancreas, that's amylase. Amylase, that's the carbohydrates produced in the pancreas. Remember, in the mouth we said there is salivary amylase. It's important to name the salivary when we talk about digestion in the mouth. Don't just say amylase. It's salivary because it's in the mouth. But when you're now in the duodenum, it suffices to say amylase. We have by so doing you have differentiated between the two. Trypsin, that is the enzyme, that's a protease found produced by in the pancreas. Trypsin. So it's important to give it that specific name. Lipase for the fats, that's the enzyme digesting fats and produced in the pancreas. Substrate. Substrate, remember the enzyme substrate complex, enzyme substrate model. There we are. So applying that now. What does the amylase act on in the duodenum? It acts on the maltose. Maltose from the mouth or the starch. You may say starch or the maltose. That is acceptable. If you say starch, the assumption is the food in the mouth was not sufficiently digested, so you still have the starch. But if it was digested, then it was digested to maltose. When the maltose was swallowed, it went all the way, skipped the stomach, or nothing happened to the maltose in the stomach. Then it got to the duodenum. Now it's in the duodenum. It finds the enzyme amylase acting on the maltose. What is the product of maltose digestion? That's the key again. Digestion and product. It's very important to know this part. This is the part that is very important that's the part that leads to the absorption. So it's glucose. Digestion and product of carbohydrate food is glucose. Let's look at the protease. The trypsin will act on the proteins, polypeptides, peptides, as said earlier. We said the proteins in the stomach will be acted on by pepsin to polypeptides and peptides. Poly means many, it's like a polymolecule. So we have these long chains of peptides and the peptides themselves, the short-chained peptides themselves. So the trypsin will act on that to produce amino acids, which is the final end product of protein digestion, amino acid. Lipase will act on fats, as we saw from the structure, the structure of the fat molecule, which had a fatty acid on one side, glycerol on the other side, bonded, making the fat molecule. So once again, when these two are broken down now, when the fat is broken down now by the enzyme lipase, you get fatty acids and glycerol. They go together. Students are not expected to say the end product of fat digestion is fatty acids. No, they go together. Fatty acids and glycerol. If you say glycerol alone, it's incomplete, so it's wrong. If you say fatty acids alone is the end product of a fat digestion, that's not complete, so it's wrong. So they go together. Fats are digested by the enzyme lipase to produce fatty acids and glycerol. All these three, glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerol, are the end products of digestion. So these products are obtainable in the duodenum. The next part of the stomach, which is said, is the ileum. That is where absorption occurs. But in the ileum, the enzymes which are active in the duodenum are still active there. So you still find them. Which means the same enzymes produced by the pancreas will act in the duodenum and will further act in the ileum. But then the ileum is known for the digestion or the absorption process, which is another process that is important in the digestive system. We talked about ingestion, taking in of food. We talked about egestion, removal of what has not been absorbed from the anal point. Now we're looking at absorption, absorbing the nutrition. So this glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerol, that's the nutrition. These are the nutrients. So they are now absorbed. They are now taken in for use in metabolic processes, in the body. So students, as we summarize this lesson, we look at the absorption in the ileum. Once the three food items, the end products of food digestion, which including the glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerol, are obtained, all these items will then be absorbed in the ileum. Absorption in the ileum. The absorption process in the ileum encompasses the villas, which have, the villas getting the nutrients through the hepatic portal vein, and then that is taken to the liver. So from me, Mr. Cindzi, have a happy viewing.